Captain Haiyan Wu sat in his command chair and watched the empty space on his screens. Nothing ever happened in the Veiled Reach for 3 years. He had commanded the monitoring station Eternal Harmony, and for 3 years absolutely nothing had disturbed the peace. The Talvarin Collective called this region the Quiet Sector, and they were right. No pirates, no anomalies, no excitement whatsoever. His crew had grown comfortable with the routine. Morning scans, afternoon reports, evening meditation sessions. The Talvarin way of life was peaceful, ordered, and magnificently boring. Haiyan Wu had accepted this long ago. Not everyone got to explore strange new worlds. Someone had to watch the empty spaces just in case. "Captain, I'm detecting something unusual," V1 called from her science station. She was young for a senior scientist, but brilliant. Her 4 eyes were fixed on her instruments, and her expression showed confusion rather than concern. "Define unusual," Haiyan Wu said, not particularly worried. Unusual in this sector usually meant a strange asteroid or unexpected solar flare. Gravitational distortions at grid reference 7-7-Mark-12. They're moving. Big One's fingers danced across her controls. "These readings don't match anything in our database." Now Haiyan Wu paid attention. The Talvarin database contained information on every known phenomenon in the galaxy. If something wasn't in there, it was genuinely new. "Can you get a better reading?" "Trying, but the instruments are acting strange." "The energy signatures are massive, Captain. Much larger than anything we've recorded before." Good One's voice held a note of excitement now. Scientists loved mysteries. Haiyan Wu stood and walked to her station. The screens showed waves of distorted space moving in patterns that seemed almost deliberate. Could it be a natural phenomenon? A gravitational wave, perhaps? "No, sir. Natural waves don't move in formation." One highlighted several points on her display. "Look, 7 distinct sources arranged in a geometric pattern. They are holding formation as they move through slip space." 7 sources. Han Wu felt the first tickle of unease. The Talvarin Collective consisted of 7 species. 7 was a sacred number in their culture, representing unity and cooperation. But these signals weren't Talvarin. They weren't anything he recognized. "Send the data to my station. I need to review this." Haiyan Wu returned to his chair and studied the information. G1 was right. The pattern was too precise to be natural. Someone was out there, moving through their territory with technology that made his instruments behave erratically. "Captain, the scanners are overloading," another technician reported. "The energy readings are spiking beyond calibration limits." "Switch to secondary sensors," Haiyan Wu ordered. This was becoming serious. Their scanning equipment was designed to handle anything from solar explosions to black holes. What could possibly overload them? The secondary sensors came online, and immediately alarms began to shriek throughout the station. The sound was piercing, designed to alert the crew to extreme danger. But the danger indicators showed nothing specific, just raw power readings that climbed higher and higher. "Shut off those alarms," Haiyan Wu commanded. His crew couldn't think with that noise. "1. What's causing the overload?" "The objects themselves, sir. Whatever they are, they're generating enormous amounts of energy. Our instruments aren't designed to measure power sources this large." One looked up from her station, and Haiyan Wu saw something he'd never seen in her expression before. Fear. "Captain, each of those objects produces more energy than our entire home fleet combined." The bridge fell silent. The Talvarin home fleet consisted of 300 ships. They were primarily science and exploration vessels, with a handful of defense ships for ceremonial purposes. The collective had never needed a real military. In 3,000 years of spacefaring civilization, they had encountered no hostile species. Peace was the natural state of intelligent beings, or so they had always believed. "Open a quantum link to the Council," Haiyan Wu said quietly. "They need to know about this immediately." The Council assembled within minutes. 7 holographic figures appeared around Haiyan Wu's command chair, representing the 7 species of the collective. Ambassador Taeyang, a distinguished Talvarin with silver markings on his face, spoke first. Captain Hyanwu, your report mentions unknown vessels. Please explain. Hyanwu transmitted the data directly to the council members. We've detected 7 large objects moving through slip space at the edge of our monitoring range. They're in formation, which suggests intelligence. Their energy signatures are unlike anything in our database, and they're so powerful our instruments can barely measure them. The council members studied the data in silence. Finally, Councillor Dayun spoke. She was known for her cautious nature. Could this be a threat? Unknown, Hyanwu admitted. We have no information about their intentions or capabilities beyond the raw power readings. Then we must make contact, Ambassador Taiyang said firmly. This is a historic moment. First contact with a new civilization. We should respond with openness and friendship, as we always have. Some council members nodded agreement. Others looked uncertain. Councillor Bio-Ra, the eldest among them, leaned forward. Let us not forget our principles. The collective was built on peaceful cooperation. We will extend the hand of friendship to these newcomers. But we should be prepared, Councillor Dune argued. These power readings are concerning. Prepared for what? Taeyang asked gently. War? We are not a warlike people, Dayun. We haven't fought anyone in millennia. Our strength lies in diplomacy, science, and culture. These are the tools we will use. The council voted as they always did. The decision was unanimous, though Hyan Wu noticed Dayun's hesitation. They would send a diplomatic vessel to make contact. The ship chosen was the Radiant Dawn, a state-of-the-art science cruiser equipped with every communication system the collective possessed. Captain Hyan Wu, you will coordinate with the Radiant Dawn, Taeyang instructed. Guide them to the contact coordinates. And may this be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. The council dissolved, leaving Hyan Wu alone with his thoughts. He looked at the data again, at those massive energy signatures that made his scanners scream. Something about this felt different. Wrong somehow. One, he called. Keep monitoring those objects. I want constant updates on their position and status. Yes, Captain. One returned to her instruments. Sir, I've been analyzing their trajectory. If they maintain their current course and speed, they'll be in visual range of the Radiant Dawn within 6 hours. 6 hours until first contact. Hyan Wu settled back into his chair and watched the screens. The Talvaran had met dozens of species over the centuries, always peacefully. There was no reason to think this time would be different, but those energy readings bothered him. No exploration vessel needed that much power. No science ship required such massive reactors. The only reason to build something that powerful was if you expected trouble. The hours crawled by. The mysterious objects continued their steady approach. The Radiant Dawn reached the coordinates and took up position. Han Wu watched through their transmitted feed as the diplomatic team prepared their welcome ceremony. Ambassador Taeyang himself had boarded the ship, determined to make the best first impression. Contact in 30 minutes, Zhiwan reported. The objects are dropping out of slip space. All stations, record everything, Hyan Wu ordered. This is history in the making. The 30 minutes felt like 30 years. Then finally space rippled. The 7 objects emerged from slip space in perfect formation, and for the first time, Hyan Wu could see them clearly. They were ships. Massive, angular ships covered in dark armor plating. Every surface bristled with weapon systems. Towers and arrays jutted from their hulls in aggressive configurations. These weren't exploration vessels. These were warships designed for one purpose only. By the stars, one whispered. Those are weapons. Hundreds of weapons. The scanners shrieked again, overwhelmed by the raw power emanating from the fleet. Han Wu stared at the screens, unable to speak. In 3,000 years, the Talvaran had never seen ships like these. They had never needed to imagine such things. A message came through. The voice was clear, direct, and utterly alien. This is the HTSV Indomitable Earth Defense Fleet. State your intentions. Earth. Hyan Wu had never heard of it. Neither had anyone in the collective. These humans, whoever they were, came from beyond their known galaxy. And they had brought a fleet that could probably destroy everything the Talvarin had ever built. Ambassador Taeyang's voice came through, filled with diplomatic warmth. Greetings, humans of Earth. We are the Talvarin Collective, and we welcome you in peace. The human response was immediate. Acknowledged. Maintain your position. We are scanning for threats. Threats. They were looking for threats. Hyung-woo felt cold. What kind of species traveled through space expecting danger at every turn? What kind of civilization built ships like these? On his screens, the 7 warships maintained their defensive formation, weapons tracking the radiant dawn with computer precision. And Hyung-woo realized with growing dread that the collective had just met someone who didn't assume peace was natural, someone who had learned to prepare for war. Ambassador Taeyang had conducted first contact ceremonies 43 times in his long career. He knew how to make newcomers feel welcome, how to ease the natural tension of meeting an unknown species. But as he faced the human admiral on his view screen, he felt something he'd never experienced before. Uncertainty. Admiral Jae-hee looked human enough. 2 eyes, bilateral symmetry, similar proportions to Talvarin. But her expression was hard, controlled. She wore a dark uniform covered in symbols and insignias that probably meant military rank. Behind her, Taeyang could see what appeared to be a command center, all efficiency and purpose. No decorations, no art, just function. Admiral Jae-hee, on behalf of the Talvarin Collective, I extend greetings and friendship. We are honored to meet your people. Taeyang used his most diplomatic tone, warm and welcoming. He nodded once. Thank you, Ambassador. We appreciate the welcome. Can you provide information about potential threats in this region? Taeyang blinked all 4 eyes in confusion. Threats? I'm not certain I understand. Do you mean environmental hazards? We can certainly share our navigational data. Environmental, military, political. Any hostile forces operating in this sector. Jae-hee's voice remained flat and professional. Hostile forces? Taeyang felt increasingly lost. There are no hostile forces. The collective has maintained peace in this region for 3,000 years. Something flickered in Jae-hee's expression. Surprise, maybe. 3,000 years of peace? That's remarkable. No conflicts? No territorial disputes? We resolve our differences through dialogue and mutual understanding, Taeyang explained. Violence is not part of our culture. It is the way of lesser beings who have not yet achieved true civilization. This time, Jae-hee's reaction was clear. Her jaw tightened. I see. And you believe all civilizations follow this path eventually? Of course. It is the natural evolution of intelligence. Surely your people have reached the same conclusion? Taeyang gestured gracefully. We offer you the gift of mutual understanding, the sharing of knowledge and culture. Together we can explore the wonders of the universe. We'd prefer specific data on regional security, threat assessment protocols, and defensive capabilities, Jae-hee responded. Standard first contact procedure. Taeyang felt the conversation slipping away from him. The human seemed fixated on danger and defense, concepts that had no place in proper diplomacy. Admiral, perhaps we should schedule a formal summit. Face-to-face communication would allow for better understanding. Jae-hee considered this. Acceptable. We'll need to review security arrangements first. Send us the coordinates and defensive capabilities of the meeting site. Defensive capabilities? Taeyang couldn't hide his confusion now. It's a diplomatic station. We don't have defenses. For the first time, Jae-hee looked genuinely surprised. You don't have defenses? At all? We have no need for them. The summit station has served as neutral ground for centuries without incident. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Then she said carefully, We'll send a security team to assess the location. Standard protocol? No offense intended. None taken, Taeyang lied. He was taking offense, actually. The implication that their peaceful station needed assessment was insulting. But he maintained his diplomatic composure. We look forward to welcoming you. The communication ended and Taeyang sat back in his chair, troubled. The first contact had gone wrong somehow, though he couldn't identify exactly where. The humans were nothing like the species the collective had encountered before. They thought like soldiers, not scholars. Back at the monitoring station, Hyunwoo was having similar concerns. He stood with his tactical officer Seung-ho, reviewing the human fleet's movements over the past 6 hours. They never break formation, Seung-ho pointed out. Even when they're just sitting in space, they maintain defensive positions. Look here, the smaller ships form a perimeter around the larger ones. Classic military escort pattern. And they're running constant scans, Ji-won added from her station. Not scientific scans either. These are tactical sweeps, looking for threats. They've mapped every ship, station, and satellite within 20 light-years. Hyunwoo studied the data with growing unease. They're behaving like they expect to be attacked at any moment. Captain, I've been analyzing their reactor signatures. Ji-won pulled up a new display. The power output is staggering. I believe they're using matter-antimatter reactions for propulsion. Antimatter? Seung-ho looked shocked. That's incredibly dangerous. The collective abandoned that research centuries ago after the accidents. The humans seem to have perfected it, Ji-won said quietly. Each of their ships carries enough antimatter to destroy a small moon. The largest ship, the one they call Indomitable, could probably annihilate an entire planet if its containment failed. The bridge fell silent. Hyunwoo tried to imagine the mentality of beings who would fly around in ships, containing planet-killing amounts of antimatter. Why would anyone build something that dangerous? Maybe they need the power for their weapons, Seung-ho suggested. Have you seen the arsenal on those ships? Hundreds of weapon systems. Maybe thousands. We can't even identify half of them. Ji-won brought up a detailed scan of the human destroyer. This is one of their smaller vessels. Look at these projectile launchers. They use kinetic weapons, firing solid slugs at enormous velocities. Very primitive compared to our energy weapons, but these things hit with devastating force. How devastating? Hyunwoo asked. I ran calculations. A single shot from their smallest cannon would penetrate every shield system in the collective fleet and destroy the ship behind them. These humans can kill us with their basic weapons. The implications settled over Hyunwoo like a heavy weight. The collective's defense fleet wasn't designed for real combat. Their ships had ceremonial weapons, enough to look impressive at parades but useless against serious threats. They'd never needed more. Until now. I need to report this to the council, Hyunwoo said. The emergency council session was tense. Councillor Daeyoung was practically shouting, which was extremely unusual for Talvarin. These humans are a threat. They arrive in our territory with massive warships and enough firepower to destroy us all. We should mobilize our forces immediately. To what end? Councillor Bara asked calmly. Captain Hyunwoo's report makes clear that our forces are no match for human technology. Military action would be suicide. Then what do you suggest? We welcome them with open arms while they point guns at our heads? They haven't pointed guns at anyone, Ambassador Taeyang interjected. They've been cautious, yes. Military-minded, certainly. But not hostile. They agreed to the diplomatic summit. While demanding security assessments, Daeyoung's coloring shifted to agitated purple. They treat us like potential enemies. Perhaps they've learned caution from experience, Baor suggested. Not all species have been as fortunate as we have. Maybe the humans come from a dangerous region of space. Or maybe they are the danger, Daeyoung countered. The argument continued, but eventually a compromise emerged. The collective would proceed with the summit, but they would also quietly position their defense fleet nearby. Just in case. It made Hyunwoo uncomfortable. The Talvarin weren't good at deception, and the humans seemed very good at detecting threats. Aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Jaehee met with her senior officers. The mood was cautious but curious. They're not lying about the peace, Young-soo reported. He was the fleet's intelligence officer, thorough and paranoid in equal measure. I've reviewed 3,000 years of their public records. No major wars, no genocides, barely any violent crime. They really are as peaceful as they claim. How is that possible? Captain Haywan asked. She commanded the destroyer Relentless and had a soldier's skepticism. Every species fights. It's natural selection, competition for resources. Not for them, apparently, Young Su brought up demographic data. The collective species evolved on resource-rich worlds. They never faced the kind of scarcity that drives conflict. By the time they reached space, they'd already developed cooperative social structures. They never had to fight for survival, Jae-hee said slowly. They don't understand species that did. Worse than that, Young Su continued. They think violence is primitive. They basically told Ambassador Taeyang that we're lesser beings because we still have militaries. One laughed bitterly. Lesser beings. That's rich, coming from people who can't defend themselves. Captain, Jae-hee's tone was sharp. We're here to explore and establish peaceful relations. Not to judge. Yes, ma'am. Sorry. Hey, one didn't look sorry, Lieutenant Minji, the fleet's xenolinguist, spoke up. Admiral, I've been analyzing their communication patterns. The Talvarin use extremely indirect language. Everything is metaphor and implication. When Ambassador Taeyang offered the gift of mutual understanding, he wasn't being poetic. That's literally how they conduct diplomacy. And we asked for tactical data, Jae-hee sighed. No wonder he was confused. It gets worse, Minji continued. They interpreted your security concerns as aggression. In their culture, assuming someone might be hostile is itself a hostile act. It's like accusing them of being dangerous. But we weren't assuming they're hostile, Jae-hee protested. We were just being cautious. They don't see the difference, Minji explained. To them, true civilization. The diplomatic station Unity's promise was a marvel of Talvarin engineering. Transparent walls showed the stars beyond. Gardens grew in carefully maintained ecosystems. Water features provided soothing sounds. Everything was designed to create peace and harmony. Thousands of aliens from all 7 collective species had gathered to witness this historic moment. When the human shuttles approached, many Talvarin felt their first tremor of fear. The shuttles were angular and armored, bristling with defensive systems. They looked like weapons themselves, dark and threatening against the elegant curves of the station. The shuttles docked with precision that spoke of military discipline. When the airlock opened, Admiral Jae-hee emerged wearing her dress uniform. Behind her came Captain Haywan and Lieutenant Minji, along with 6 soldiers in full combat armor. The soldiers carried weapons openly. A collective gasp rippled through the watching crowd. No one had brought weapons to Unity's promise before. It was unthinkable. This was sacred neutral ground, a place of peace. Ambassador Taeyang stepped forward to greet them, trying to maintain his composure. Admiral Jae-hee, welcome. We are honored by your presence. Jae-hee nodded politely. Thank you for hosting us, Ambassador. She glanced at the shocked crowd. Have we violated protocol? Your message didn't specify restrictions on security personnel. We have no such restrictions because we've never needed them, Taeyang admitted. But no matter. Please follow me. The welcoming ceremony is prepared. He led them to the Grand Hall, where representatives from all 7 species waited. The ceremony began with traditional songs, then poetry, then an elaborate dance representing the unity of the collective. It lasted nearly 2 hours. The humans watched politely, but Taeyang could see their discomfort. Admiral Jae-hee stood at attention, never relaxing. Captain Haywan kept scanning the room, hand never far from her weapon. The soldiers maintained a defensive perimeter, watching everyone with suspicious eyes. When the ceremony finally ended, Taeyang invited the humans to present their own culture. Lieutenant Minji stepped forward. She was younger than the others, less hardened by military life. She spoke clearly and directly. Thank you for the welcome. I'll share our history briefly, since I know you're curious about us. She activated a holographic display. Humanity evolved on Earth, a planet with limited resources and harsh conditions. Our history is marked by struggle. We fought for food, territory, survival. We had thousands of wars. We nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. The Talvarin audience recoiled. Some left the hall entirely. Others whispered in shock. This was worse than they'd imagined. Minji continued calmly. But we learned. Each war taught us something. Each mistake showed us a better path. We discovered that cooperation was stronger than conflict. We unified our planet, ended our wars, and reached for the stars. We're still learning, still growing. But we're here, and we come in peace. Peace, Counselor Don spoke loudly from the audience. How can we trust the word of a species that fights itself constantly? What stops you from fighting us? Admiral Jahe stepped forward. Her voice was quiet but carried through the hall. Because we know the cost. We've seen what war does. We've lost billions to violence and hatred. We learned those lessons in blood and suffering. We would spare others that pain if we can. Yet you bring weapons to a place of peace, Yoon challenged. We bring the means to defend peace, Jahe corrected. There's a difference, is there? Dayoon's coloring shifted to aggressive red. You assume we're threats. You assume danger where none exists. This is the thinking of primitives, not civilized beings. The hall fell silent. Calling someone primitive was a deep insult in Talvarin culture. Jahe's expression hardened, and Captain Haewon moved slightly forward. The tension was explosive. Ambassador Taeyang quickly intervened. Perhaps we should move to the cultural exchange. Counselor Biora has arranged a demonstration of our technology. The suggestion diffused the immediate crisis. The crowd moved to the observation deck, where Talvarin scientists showed off their achievements. Medical scanners that could diagnose any disease. Environmental systems that could heal poisoned planets. Quantum computers that could solve problems the humans had deemed impossible. The human officers were genuinely impressed. Minji asked intelligent questions about the medical technology. Even Haewon seemed interested in the environmental restoration systems. For a brief time, the tension eased. Then it was humanity's turn. Captain Haewon volunteered her ship, the destroyer Relentless. The demonstration would take place at a safe distance from the station. This is a standard combat readiness drill, Haewon explained over the communication system. Nothing special. Just routine training. The Relentless moved away from the station until it was barely visible to the naked eye. Then it began to move. The ship accelerated, decelerated, spun on multiple axes. The maneuvers were aggressive, designed for combat situations. To the watching Talvarin, it looked like the ship was fighting invisible enemies. Point defense test, Haewon announced. Small turrets on the ship's hull tracked imaginary targets, their movements precise and mechanical. And now, a single railgun demonstration. We've selected a small asteroid as target. Distance, 300 kilometers. On the observation deck, viewers watched the designated asteroid through telescopes. It was unremarkable, just a chunk of rock floating in space. Then the Relentless fired. There was no dramatic beam, no colorful energy bolt. Just a brief flash from the ship's hull. 1 second later, the asteroid exploded. Not cracked or damaged. Completely disintegrated into powder and small fragments. The observation deck was silent. Ji-1, watching from the monitoring station via remote link, ran quick calculations. That asteroid had a mass of approximately 50,000 tons, she said quietly. It was solid rock and metal. The kinetic energy required to destroy it so completely is astronomical. That was our smallest cannon, Haewon added casually. The Indomitable has weapons 100 times more powerful. Counselor Dayoon stood abruptly. Her coloring had gone pale, almost white. You destroy worlds. You travel through space in ships designed to annihilate planets? And you call yourselves peaceful? We call ourselves prepared, Jahe responded. There's a difference. I see no difference. Dayoon's voice rose. You are violent beings who bring violence wherever you go. You are exactly what we feared. This summit was a mistake. She turned and left the observation deck. Several other counselors followed her. Ambassador Taeyang looked devastated. The summit was fracturing before his eyes. Admiral, please understand. We've never encountered a species like yours. Your weapons, your military focus, it frightens us. We don't know how to reconcile this with peaceful coexistence. You asked us to demonstrate our culture, Jahe said quietly. This is part of who we are. We don't hide it. We don't apologize for surviving. But do you understand how it looks to us? Belra, the eldest counselor, spoke gently. We've built everything through peace. Then you arrive with enough weapons to destroy it all? We wonder if we're safe. For the first time, Jahe's military composure cracked slightly. She looked tired. Counselor, we've traveled 2 years to reach this region. In that time, we've encountered 3 hostile species. One tried to board our ships and eat us. Another attacked without warning because they thought we were trespassing on sacred space we couldn't see. The third simply wanted our technology and tried to take it by force. The Talvaran stared at her in shock. We didn't start any of those fights, Jahe continued. We tried diplomacy first. Every time. But we survived because we could defend ourselves when diplomacy failed. That's why we carry weapons. Not because we want to use them, but because the universe isn't always kind to those who can't. The universe has been kind to us, Taeyang said quietly. You've been lucky, Jahe corrected. And I'm glad, truly, peace is precious, but luck doesn't last forever. Young Su, the intelligence officer, spoke up from his position near the doorway. Admiral, I'm detecting movement. The Talvaran defense fleet is repositioning. They're forming a perimeter around this station. Are they threatening us? Hey, one asked, hand moving to her weapon. No, Minji said quickly. They're protecting the station. From us. They think we're dangerous. Jahe looked at Taeyang. Ambassador, are we prisoners? No, Taeyang looked horrified. No, of course not. The fleet is there for ... security, just as you wanted security. We're being cautious by surrounding us with warships. They're not warships. They're defense vessels. Ceremonial, mostly. They couldn't harm your fleet even if they tried. Taeyang realized what he'd said and stopped, embarrassed. The truth hung in the air. The Talvaran were afraid, so they'd move their military. But their military was useless against the humans. Everyone knew it. The gesture was empty, theatrical. It made the Talvaran look weak and paranoid simultaneously. Counselor Bo Ra laughed. It was a tired, sad sound. Look at us. We summon our mighty fleet to defend against visitors who could destroy it without effort. We are children playing at security while real warriors watch patiently. We're not warriors, Jahe said firmly. We're explorers who learn to defend ourselves. There's a difference, is there? Dora echoed Dayun's earlier question. Can you be both? Can you truly seek peace while carrying such terrible power? 3 days had passed since the disastrous summit. The human fleet remained at the edge of Talvaran space, maintaining their defensive formation. The Talvaran Council was still debating what to do about these dangerous visitors. Ambassador Taeyang was trying to arrange another meeting, hoping to bridge the cultural gap. Everything was tense but stable. Then Ji-1 detected something new. Captain Hyun-woo, I'm picking up massive slip-space distortions. Multiple contacts approaching fast from bearing 270. Her voice was urgent, cutting through the quiet morning routine at the monitoring station. Hyun-woo was at her station in seconds. How many contacts? Still analyzing. At least 40. Maybe more. They're not trying to hide their approach. Uwon's fingers flew across her controls. Captain, these aren't like the human signatures. These are different ships, different technology. Can you identify them? No, sir, they're not in our database. But, Captain, they're armed. Weapons powered up, shields at maximum. They're coming in hot? Hyun-woo felt cold fear grip his chest. Contact the Council immediately. And open a channel to the human fleet? Within minutes, Admiral Jahe's face appeared on his screen. Her expression was professionally neutral, but Hyun-woo could see the alertness in her eyes. Captain Hyun-woo, what can we do for you? Admiral, we've detected an unknown fleet entering our space. 40+ vessels, heavily armed. We don't know who they are. He transmitted the data. Jae-hee studied the information, then turned to someone off-screen. Young-soo, analysis. The intelligence officer's voice came through. Aggressive formation, Admiral. Classic assault pattern. Whoever they are, they're not here for diplomacy. We've attempted to communicate, Hyun-woo added. They're jamming all our signals. They won't respond to any hails. Jae-hee's expression hardened. Captain, I recommend you evacuate all civilian stations in their path. Fleet, go to battle stations. This is not a drill. The bridge of the Indomitable transformed instantly. Casual efficiency became sharp readiness. Crew members rushed to their positions. Screens lit up with tactical data. The ship hummed with power as weapon systems came online. Hyun-woo watched in fascination and fear. The humans moved like a single organism, every person knowing exactly what to do. This was what military discipline looked like. The Talvern had nothing like it. Young-soo's voice came through again, urgent. Admiral, I'm analyzing their signatures. These match reports from the far colonies. I think these are Kethrin. Explain, Jae-hee ordered. The Kethrin Dominion. Predatory empire, been expanding through this region for decades. They conquer primitive species, strip their worlds, and move on. We had intelligence reports about them, but they were operating far from our projected route. Why are they here now? Han-woo asked. They probably detected us, Young-soo said grimly. Our reactor signatures are visible across half the sector. They came to investigate, and now they see something they want. Our technology. A new voice cut through the communication channels. It was harsh, mechanical, translated by computers. Attention, human vessels. You will surrender your ships immediately. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of all Talvern colonies in this system. You have 1 of your hours to respond. The transmission ended. Hyun-woo stared at his screen in horror. They were being used as hostages. The Kethrin would destroy Talvern worlds to force the humans to surrender. Captain Hyun-woo, connect me to your council, Jae-hee said quietly. They need to hear this. The council assembled in emergency session. All 7 species represented, all looking terrified. Counselor Dae-yoon spoke first, her voice shaking. What do these Kethrin want? Your worlds as leverage, Young-soo explained. They want our ships. If we don't surrender, they'll start destroying your colonies. Then you must surrender. Dae-yoon said desperately. We have no defenses. Our people will die. Surrendering won't save you, Jae-hee said firmly. The Kethrin don't honor agreements. They'll take our ships and destroy your worlds anyway. That's how they operate. How do you know this? Taeyang asked. Because we've encountered species like them before, Jae-hee replied. Predators who see weaker civilizations as prey. They'll take everything and leave nothing. And what do? Bio asked. The eldest counselor looked ancient suddenly, fragile. Our defense fleet is useless. We can't fight them. No, Jae-hee agreed. But we can. Silence fell over the council. Counselor Dae-yoon found her voice first. You would fight for us? After we called you primitive? After we feared and rejected you? We didn't come here to watch innocents die, Jae-hee said simply. That's not who we are. Admiral, Captain Haewon's voice came through. The Kethrin are moving. They're heading for the colony on Talva 3. Population, 2 million. Jae-hee's jaw tightened. Fleet status? All ships at battle stations. Weapons charge. We're ready. Admiral, please, Taeyang spoke urgently. Our people are not warriors. We don't understand war. But we understand sacrifice. If you fight for us, some of you may die. We cannot ask this of you. You're not asking, Jae-hee said. I'm offering. But Ambassador, understand this. Once we engage, there's no going back. This will be violent. People will die, probably on both sides. War isn't clean or noble. It's brutal and ugly. Are you prepared for that? The council looked at each other. These were people who had known only peace, who had built their entire civilization on the belief that violence was wrong, always. Now they faced a choice that shouldn't exist: accept violence to protect themselves, or maintain their principles and watch their people die. Ora spoke, her voice heavy with centuries of wisdom and current grief. Do what you must, Admiral. Save our people. We will bear the moral weight of this decision. No, Jahi said quietly. I'll bear it. That's what soldiers do. You stay innocent. Let us be the monsters, if that's what it takes. She turned away from the screen and addressed her fleet. All ships form assault pattern Delta. We're going to stop that Catherine fleet before they reach Talva 3. Rules of engagement: disable, if possible. Destroy if necessary. These bastards threaten to murder millions of civilians. We're going to teach them why that was a mistake. The human fleet moved, and Hyun-woo watched in awe. The 7 massive warships accelerated to speeds that shouldn't be possible. They moved with purpose and precision, each ship knowing its role. The Indomitable led the formation, with destroyers flanking like hunting wolves on his screens. Han-woo could see the Catherine fleet approaching Talva 3. The colony was helpless, its 2 million inhabitants completely unaware of their danger. The Talvaran defense fleet was moving to intercept, but everyone knew they'd be crushed. Then the human fleet arrived. They came out of slip space, directly between the Catherine and their target. The Indomitable's shields flared bright as Catherine weapons opened fire immediately. But the shields held. They didn't even flicker. Admiral Jahi's voice broadcast on all frequencies. This is Admiral Jahi of the Earth Defense Fleet. You will withdraw immediately, or you will be removed by force. The Catherine response was a storm of weapons fire. Dozens of ships launched missiles, fired energy beams, and sent projectiles screaming toward the human fleet. From the monitoring station, it looked like a wall of destruction descending on the 7 human ships. Then the humans returned fire. The noise alone was overwhelming. Han-woo had never heard anything like it. Railguns firing with sounds like thunder. Missile pods launching in rippling sequences. Point defense systems chattering as they intercepted incoming fire. Energy shields crackling as they absorbed impacts. G1 stared at her instruments in disbelief. Captain, my scanners. They're overloading again. The energy output is incredible. Each human ship is producing more firepower than our entire defense fleet. Record everything, Hyun-woo ordered, unable to look away. The battle was one-sided from the beginning. Catherine's ships exploded under the human assault. The destroyer Relentless carved through their formation, her railguns punching holes through armor that was supposed to be impenetrable. The other destroyers followed, working in coordinated strikes that left Catherine vessels drifting and broken. The Indomitable moved through the battlefield like a predator among prey. Her shields shrugged off everything the Catherine threw at her. Her weapons fired with methodical precision, each shot destroying or crippling an enemy vessel. Captain Haewon's voice came through the communication channels, calm and professional. Targets 7 through 12 neutralized. Moving to engage Cluster 3. Confirmed, another captain responded. Cluster 3 marked. Engaging now. They made it sound routine, clinical, but Hyun-woo could see the destruction they were causing. Catherine's ships were dying by the dozens. This wasn't a battle. It was an execution. The Catherine commander, Warlord Victor, apparently reached the same conclusion. All ships, retreat. Retreat. But Admiral Jae-hee had anticipated this. Captain Sung-nin, Lieutenant Bora, cut off their escape route. They don't leave until we say so. 2 human destroyers moved behind the Catherine fleet, blocking their retreat. The Catherine were trapped between the human forces, their formation collapsing into chaos. Jae-hee broadcast again. Warlord Victor, you threatened to murder millions of innocent people. You came here expecting easy prey. Instead you found humans. Power down your weapons and surrender, or we'll finish what you started. There was a long silence. The Catherine's surrender left an uneasy quiet across the sector. The disabled ships floated in space, their crews waiting to learn their fate. Admiral Jahe ordered them escorted to the edge of Talvaran territory with a simple message: leave and never return, or next time there would be no mercy. Warlord Victor's final transmission was bitter. We underestimated you, humans. We thought you were just another soft species with big ships. We were wrong. This sector is yours? We won't contest it. This sector isn't ours, Jahe replied. It belongs to the Talvaran Collective. We're just visitors, but if you come back, we'll make you regret it. The Kethran fleet limped away and the human ships returned to their position near Unity's promise. The Talvaran Council requested an immediate meeting. This time, when the human delegation arrived, there were no weapons restrictions, no shocked gasps. The Talvaran had learned something. Ambassador Taeyang greeted Admiral Jahe personally. His expression was complex, mixing gratitude with something darker. Loss, perhaps. The loss of innocence, the loss of a comfortable worldview. Admiral, the Talvaran Collective owes you an enormous debt. You saved millions of our people when you had no obligation to do so. We did what was right, Jahe said simply. That's all. The council assembled in the grand hall. This time there was no ceremony, no elaborate welcome. Everyone wanted to understand what had happened and what it meant for their future. Counselor Biora spoke first. Admiral, we must confess something. We judged you harshly when you arrived. We saw your weapons and military discipline, and we thought you were primitive, violent beings. We were wrong. We apologize. You weren't entirely wrong, Jahe admitted. We are violent. We do understand war in ways you don't. But violence isn't the same as evil. Sometimes it's necessary. We're beginning to understand that, Taeyang said quietly. The Kethran have been active in this region for decades. We knew of them but dismissed them as an isolated problem. We thought if we ignored them, they'd ignore us. And they did, Jahe said. Until we showed up. Our presence drew them here. In a way, we're responsible for putting you in danger. No, Counselor Dunn spoke up. She looked different from the angry, fearful person who'd left the summit days ago. We're responsible for our own vulnerability. We built a civilization without defenses because we were lucky enough never to need them. That wasn't wisdom. That was fortune. Fortune we mistook for superiority. Lieutenant Minji, standing beside Jahe, spoke gently. Counselor, your culture isn't inferior. You've achieved things we haven't. Your medical technology is centuries ahead of ours. Your environmental science is remarkable. You've built a peaceful, cooperative society that we're still trying to achieve. But we can't defend it, Dayan said bluntly. Everything we built can be taken by the first aggressive species that finds us. The Kethran would have destroyed us without effort if you hadn't been here. How long before others come? How long before humanity leaves and we're alone again? The question hung in the air. It was the core issue, the thing everyone had been avoiding. Young Su, the intelligence officer, pulled up a star map. The galaxy is vast, counselors. The Kethran aren't the only predatory species out there. There are dozens of aggressive empires, raiders, and conquerors. You've been lucky to avoid them, but that luck won't last forever. Eventually, someone will find you. Then what do we do? Taeyang asked. We're not warriors. We can't become you overnight. You don't need to become us, Jahe said. But you need to be able to protect yourselves. That means building real defenses. Military ships, trained crews, defensive networks. It's not about becoming violent. It's about being prepared. Will you help us? Biora asked. Can you teach us? Jahe looked at her senior officers. Captain Haewon nodded. Minji looked hopeful. Young Su gave a slight shrug that said, why not? We can help, Jahe agreed. But understand, this will change your society. A military requires different thinking. You'll need to train people for combat. You'll need to accept that sometimes violence is the answer. That's hard for peaceful people. Harder than watching our people die? Taeyang asked. We've learned that lesson. Admiral, painfully, we're ready to change. The Talvaran Council voted unanimously. To request a defense treaty with Earth, the humans would provide military protection while training Talvaran crews and helping them build a real defense fleet. In exchange, the Talvaran would share their advanced scientific knowledge. It was the beginning of something larger, an alliance between species that approached the universe from opposite directions but could learn from each other. Back at the monitoring station, Han-Wu reviewed the battle data with Ji-Won and Seung-Ho. The recordings showed the human fleet's capabilities in detail. Every weapon discharge, every tactical maneuver, every moment of overwhelming superiority. "I've analyzed their weapons thoroughly," Ji-Won said. "Captain, the ship they call Indomitable has a main cannon they didn't even use in the battle. I've reviewed the power systems required to charge it. That weapon could destroy a planet." Seung-Ho looked shocked. Why would anyone build something like that? "To stop people from attacking them," Hyung-Woo said quietly. He was beginning to understand the human mentality. It's a deterrent. If everyone knows you can destroy planets, they think twice before threatening you. "It worked on the Kethran," Seung-Ho admitted. "They ran the moment they realized they couldn't win." Ji-Won pulled up her final report. "Captain, I'm submitting this to the Council. The title is Why Human Scanners Scream, a Study in Prepared Peace." Hyung-Woo read through it. Ji-Won had done her usual thorough work, documenting every aspect of human technology and tactics. But the conclusion was what struck him. Humanity didn't come to our sector as conquerors, Ji-Won had written. They came as explorers. They carry enough weapons to destroy everything we've built, but they chose to save us instead. This is the paradox we must understand. The truly dangerous species is the one that can choose peace despite being capable of overwhelming violence. We feared their weapons, but we should have admired their restraint. "It's good work," Hyun-Woo said. "But add something at the end. Add that we're lucky they came when they did. If the Kethran had arrived first, we'd all be dead. The humans' weapons saved us. Their violence, controlled and directed, protected our peace." One nodded and made the additions. "What do you think will happen now, Captain? Will we really become like them?" "No," Hyun-Woo said. "We'll become something new. They'll teach us to defend ourselves, but we're still Talvaran. We'll approach warfare the way we approach everything else, carefully, thoughtfully, hopefully without losing who we are in the process." "I hope you're right," Ji-Won said softly, aboard the Indomitable. Admiral Jae-hee held a final meeting with her crew. They'd been in Talvaran space for 2 weeks now, and Earth was expecting reports. "We've made first contact with a peaceful, advanced civilization," she summarized. "We've established a defense treaty and military cooperation agreement. We've also encountered the Kethran Dominion and neutralized their threat to this region. Overall, I'd call this a successful mission." Captain Haewon raised her hand. "Admiral, do you think the Talvaran will really be able to defend themselves? They're so far behind militarily." "They'll learn," Jae-hee said confidently. "They're intelligent, organized, and now they're motivated. Give them a few years and they'll have a respectable defense fleet. Won't match ours, but they won't need to. They just need to be strong enough that raiders think twice." "And if something bigger than raiders comes?" Young-Soo asked. "Something we can't handle? Then we call for help from Earth," Jae-hee said. "But that's why we're establishing the alliance. We're stronger together. They give us advanced science, we give them military protection. Fair trade." Lieutenant Minji looked thoughtful. "Admiral, what did we learn from this? About humanity, I mean?" Jae-hee considered the question. "We learned that our violent history, the thing we're sometimes ashamed of, has value. We survived horrors and learned from them. The Talvaran never faced those horrors, so they never learned those lessons. We can teach them without them having to suffer the way we did. That's a gift in its own way." "So our scars have purpose," Hae-Won said quietly. "Always did," Jae-hee replied. "We just didn't always recognize it." The human fleet prepared to depart for Earth, leaving behind a small contingent to begin training programs with the Talvaran. They'd return with more resources, more personnel, and plans for the long-term alliance. Ambassador Taeyang came to see them off personally. He stood in the docking bay of Unity's Promise and shook hands with Admiral Jahe, a gesture he'd learned was important to humans. Safe travels, Admiral. You've changed everything for us. I'm not sure if I should thank you or curse you for that. Jahe smiled. A little of both, probably. Change is hard, but you'll adapt. You're survivors, Ambassador. You just never had to prove it before. One last question, Taiyang said. When you first arrived, our scanners went crazy. The energy readings were so high our instruments couldn't measure them properly. They screamed warnings at us. Was that intentional? Were you trying to intimidate us? No, Jahe said. That's just how much power we need. Our ships run hot because they have to. We built them to survive anything we might encounter.